Welcome, everyone, to the January 25th, 2022. We're already at the end of January episode of Full Press Hockey Weekly here on twitter.com/fullpressnhl, youtube.com/full coverage, twitch.tv/full press coverage, facebook.com/full press NHL, and Full Press Radio. It is Mike Straw. It is Chris Wassel. Jim is not with us tonight. Fitting song to open the show. Just it's a fun night. We're at the midway point of the season. We got a lot to talk about. We have our impressions, we have coaches, we have disappointments, we have surprises. We have a lot to get into. Before we get started, make sure, please, wherever you're watching, give us a retweet on Twitter, like the video on every platform, subscribe to us on YouTube. You know, just help us out any which way you can. Chris, before we get into the game of hockey itself, how are you doing as we wind down February?
It's not too bad. I mean, look, we're almost the end of the first month of the year already. It seems like it's flown by, unlike other months the past couple of years, and we seem to be. You don't want to jinx it, but we're headed towards something where we're playing consistent hockey, which is kind of nice. And I'm not gonna lie, yeah, my team's awful and they're a complete mess. But the important thing is we're actually seeing hockey played on a consistent basis, and
a lot of that has to do with them not testing asymptomatic players, which have it however your thoughts are. I have my own thoughts I won't get into, but if that's what they got to do to get the season, that's what the players are okay with, then that's what the players are okay with. At this point, you take the risk you take, and that's where we're at. It's a fun time. For a lot of teams, we're just about at the midway point of the season. You do have some teams that have a lot games to make up. Like you have the Islanders at just 34 games. They aren't at the halfway point. But then you have teams like Anaheim that are at 44, and the Rangers and Washington at 44.
Yep.
So we're past the halfway point on average for most of these teams. And that's all we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the season we've had so far on the ice. We're not going to talk about any off ice stuff today. We do that enough. We're probably going to do it next week. But tonight, we're going to talk about on the ice. And we're going to start, and the music was kind of a little segue into that. We're going to start with coaches behind the benches. They're burning seats. Chris, if Jim was here, we'd know what he'd do. I'll start with you, obviously. Give me your coach or coaches whose seats are the hottest at this point in the year and could be on the way out sooner rather than later.
All right, I'll give you the ones that should be the hottest, but probably are not getting out of here yet, because I don't have I don't even, after what came out today, I don't even have a rational explanation anymore. But probably the coach right now that deserves most to be out. I mean, this is tough, but you hate to say it, and again, he'll probably stay too. Is probably Mike Yeo at this point. I mean, look, I know people want to say, okay, it's not just the coaching, but you do not have 2 10-plus game losing streaks in a season without there being something inherently wrong on a multitude of fronts.
It's not just coaches, though. And we'll get into the Flyers more, I know, for a fact, when we talk about our biggest disappointments this year. But, yeah, I mean, Alain Vigneault, we knew that wasn't going to work.
Yep.
And then Mike Yeo, when he was named the interim, a lot of people knew that wasn't going to
work either. Yeah. Now here's the kicker in all of this, Mike. They brought in John Torchetti. today as an assistant coach of some sorts. The irony is Fletcher brought Torchetti in, who ultimately replaced Yo when he was fired in Minnesota. Huh? I mean, there's kind of, look, I get it's a dysfunctional mess in Philadelphia, and they're probably going to see their captain get traded before the trade deadline. I think that's something that is gaining more and more traction as the days roll on. And there's a culture in Philadelphia that no doubt will be changed at some point, whether it's Fletcher running the show or whoever. But there's a whole lot of heat there. And unfortunately, along the Jersey Turnpike, there is a little bit more heat probably in New Jersey now today after the news came out that basically, our number one goaltender has been playing not only hurt the whole year, but arguably he should not have been on the ice. No,
in any way, shape, or
form at all. I don't care about the vaccination stuff that does that. No, I don't. I just don't. If a player is injured as significantly as Mackenzie Blackwood is, I'm not saying was, is, he still is. The player is naturally going to try and play through it, Mike. Look, I've been there. I know. I've done it. It's dumb, but it's your almost primal. I hate to say it, primal instinct, but it's true. Is to keep playing for fear of losing your job, or, for whatever the case may be, your pecking order in the organization. It's not a secret that the coaching situation has been in flux in New Jersey for some time. Alain Nasreddine is still there, even though he's commissioned one of the worst defenses I've seen in the last 10 years. Lindy Ruff has let this go on. Whether at some point you have to take accountability for it. He preaches it all the time. Reality is nobody's seeing it in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And never mind the on-ice product, which in itself is a bit of a mess. And there's been reasons for that. But you just cannot have this happen again. Corey Schneider was enough. I mean, Corey Schneider played with a severe hip injury for over a year before he had surgery. And it was a risky surgery. And unlike Roberto Luongo's, which worked, Schneider's really never did.
Yeah.
The hip never took right. I mean, he's able to sort of play now, but it's not anywhere near an NHL or even arguably AHL level at this point. He's a mentor in the AHL, basically. That's all Corey Schneider is now, unfortunately. It's sad.
And it's not like things are going well tonight either in New Jersey. As we're recording it, it's 4-0 Dallas.
Yeah,
early in the second period.
This four-string goaltender that's in net, unfortunately. I mean, because look, for what it's worth, New Jersey does have one of the best AHL teams in the league. I mean, they're in the top 3 in points percentage. And you don't really want to mess with that too much at this point, because somebody's got to make the playoffs, and we're going to have playoff hockey somewhere. But in New Jersey at this point, I mean, look, it was going to be a mess tonight no matter what. And I know people pointed John Klingberg is out. Obviously, he was a late scratch as hope for New Jersey. But the news that came out today and the effort in the first period go hand in hand. They really do. And you have to sit there and go, look, if you're Tom Fitzgerald, when is enough enough? Or is your job on the line and you don't even know it yet? Because, I mean, at this point, Mike, I actually throw my hands up in utter frustration.
Yeah, I don't get the Devils situation. The Flyers situation, we all knew that wasn't going to work when they made Yo the interim. For me, we're going to go straight to the one that I've been saying since he was hired.
Yep.
We know where this is going. Anybody who's watched the show knows where I'm going. And that's Dave Hextall in Seattle. A former, it's nice that we make that segue, though, from Philly. We get to another former Flyers coach that was a miserable failure. And Dave Hextall, again, should not be coaching at the NHL level as a head coach. If he goes anywhere, it should be back to college. It's just, he is not, to me, cut out to be a coach in the NHL. Seattle just looks abysmal every time they're on the ice. They'll get these random wins that no one expects, like the other night when they beat Florida 5-3. But they can't do anything to string anything together. He doesn't change up things enough to show any faith into that he's trying to figure things out. He just seems in over his head. And I mean, granted, Ron Francis didn't do him any favors with that abysmal expansion draft. But we've talked about that ad nauseum. But Dave Hextall, obviously, I don't think they fire their coach in their first year of existence, though they should. But he is a guy that if he makes it, even when he makes it out of this year, he will, without question, be one of the first coaches fired if it continues at the start of next season. There's no doubt in my mind. It's not going to be a wait and see a thing. The NHL, I don't even think, wants to see this happen where things just go downhill. They tried to set up Seattle like they did Vegas, and Seattle butchered it in every possible way. And it's just, it's a joke what they've done up there. Dave Tippett is another coach that I think possibly, depending on how things go, is out the door. They keep saying the answer's in the locker room, the answer's in the locker room. It ain't with that coach. And then lastly, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. Barry Trotz and the Islanders don't have, I mean, granted, okay, they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They still don't look right. I don't know what it is. I don't know if his message is getting stale to that team, which is hard to believe for a coach as respected and revered as Barry Trotz. But granted, it also has to do with the fact that the roster they have right now is just not capable to keep up to the speed that's required in today's NHL. But Barry Trotz just, I don't know if he'll be there much longer. I don't know if they're going to fire him, but I could see if things don't turn around, he walks away from New York after this season.
Not far off.
And
really
that's
not.
Kind of, I mean,
wow.
It's kind of where I'm sitting. And Barry Trotz to me is one of
rough.
Yeah, and Trotz to me is more arguably my favorite coach in my lifetime as being a fan and covering the game. My favorite coach to cover.
Now, I had said this in the beginning of the season, and I universally got lambasted for it. But it is kind of weirdly
that's because it came from you
to haunt them. Yeah, probably. Damn 1888 injury ninja. Yeah. There just was not something right with this team. And they are built more for the shorter schedule, especially for the bubble. I think this was the team built more for the playoffs, built more for a 40, 50 game schedule. And look, the hand they got dealt from the beginning was going to be a problem regardless. The long road trip, the COVID postponements. I understand that. But there was an overall kind of lack of talent on the roster, or players that were capable of scoring enough goals that resemble an NHL team. And though they've rectified it somewhat, you kind of see tonight and go, well, at times this happens. And they've had a few of those. They had one of those, I think it was last week against Washington, where they didn't play bad. They just lost a 2-0 game where they looked completely lifeless for long periods of time. That a team that quite nearly made the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row shouldn't.
Yeah, it's a nightmare scenario in New York. They open the beautiful new building in Belmont, and things just aren't going well. They can't string anything together. We'll see if this little run they're on kind of changes things, but we'll see what happens. I don't think it does. I think changes have to be made. I think that's where we're at. But that's enough of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on, and we're gonna end the show talking about our biggest surprises and what we like from the season. We'll end the show on a high note because we always seem to end it negatively, I feel. So we're gonna start out with at the midpoint. We'll start with players. What players have disappointed you in their performance so far this year?
Wait a minute. So legally, I can go through and list half the Devils. And no, I can't do that. That's can't never. Okay, obviously, you don't want to say you don't want to pick on the Islanders too much, but Ryan Pulak, I'm still waiting for like the guy to be this offensive defenseman that they keep claiming he is, and he just is not. And now obviously, he had COVID. He never quite recovered right from it. He's injured on top. Somehow he got injured while he was on COVID protocol, and nobody seems to know how or why. But they were really counting on him to take a some kind of step up this year, and instead it's been Noah Dobson, who's been excellent for the Islanders, and he's kind of run into the Islanders coaching gauntlet himself a little bit because he's a young guy trying to establish more and more a role for himself, and they kind of keeping him not down, if you will, but sometimes he doesn't get maybe the playing time he should just because he's not he doesn't have enough experience. I mean, you go through the entire. I guess you could insert Montreal player here at this point for the most part because everything that has gone wrong has. I mean, Jeff Petrie supposedly was to be a leader of this team, and from almost like game one, this was a complete utter disaster. Here we go. You'll like this one, Mike. Jordan Bennington.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his, it was his job. He didn't look bad early in the season either. That's what's weird about this. This wasn't like it just suddenly turned. And Ville Husso comes in, is on fire, playing absolutely out of his mind. And for all intents and purposes, I think you might see a scenario in February and going forward where Husso gets at least half or a majority of the starts going forward in the foreseeable future.
And half of the starts, and even granted, a very small sample size, but Charlie Lindgren looked like he belonged in his 5 games. He's played in 5. He started 4 of them. He came in relief and got a win. Yeah. But 5-0, near 0.96, just under that goals save percentage. His goals against is hovering about 1.2. Like,
yep.
He looked like he belonged. Where Binnington, other than the run to the cup, which you can't take that away, everything hit at the right possible time for that team.
Yep.
He's never looked comfortable as the guy.
No, he hasn't.
And I feel like if there's one position where the Blues can afford to move on quickly because they're I think they're set for the future, is goaltending.
Crazy, right? I mean, they really are in a stronger position than anybody thought.
I think anybody thought, and I think I'd put them from goaltending standpoint for the future. Mm-hmm. They're arguably in the strong. Granted, I could eat crow in a year because it could be a whole Andrew Raycroft situation, whatever.
It could.
But that's not why we're in this business. We're in this business to talk about the now. And right now, I'd put them at the top because of how Husso has played, and how Lindgren in his small time played.
Yeah, it's crazy because we were just pointing this out the other day with me, Pete Jensen, and Nick Alberga on the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast. Bennington started 6-2-1, Mike.
Yeah.
6-2-1, like a 2-2, 2-3 goals against, and probably like a 9-15, 9-20 save percentage. Reasonably well enough. Since then, I mean, he's got at least a half dozen bad starts in his next 15 games. That's not good. That when you see a rate that is that bad, when basically, and his last two games, guys, 850 save percentage, 800 save percentage. He's given up 13 goals. Even in the games he's winning, he's given up 3 or more goals in, I believe it is now, by my math, 12 of the last 15 appearances.
Yeah, it's not.
It's rough, especially. I mean, granted, St. Louis is a top 5 scoring team in this league right now.
Yeah, they're playing as well as they've played all year. They're granted no one's catching Colorado in that division, but if Colorado stays healthy, I think they're just going to run away with the division. But that's the big if, obviously, because if McKinnon and Rantanen go down, then gates open.
Now, how about this for a disappointment? Even though his record doesn't quite indicate it, how weird is it? He's kind of similar to Bennington in the sense Bennington's record. All right, Bennington is over 500 at least.
I'm not going to say he's over 500. He's 11 and 12.
Okay, he's 11 and 12.
losses.
All right, so he's not. He's NHL 500, but that's about it.
Yeah, the NHL also counts overtime losses as non-losses. So the Flyers technically aren't on an 11-game or 12-game losing streak. They're on a winless streak because the NHL is stupid.
Okay, how about this one? Even now, this goalie has 16 wins. Cam Talbot.
Yeah, that's...
How weird is that? I mean, he has a goals against of right near 3. And over the last 15 starts, he's like right just under 900 for a save percentage. And guess who's coming to dinner? Capo Kekkonen, the Finnish goaltender that couldn't buy a win the last year and a half in the pandemic.
I mean, all it takes is something to click once, and you just have that confidence, and he's got it.
He's got it.
And you go with the hot hand. I'm a firm believer with goaltending. You go with who's hot. Yep. I'm not a 1A, like a starter and a backup. I have 2 starting goal. My view of a goaltending position is you have 2 starters on your team, and you go with who's hot. That's how it is. You don't have like, oh, well, he's scheduled to go this game, so he's got to go. No, if my guy pitched a shutout last night and I'm on the second night of a back-to-back, chances are I'm going to start the guy who got the shutout.
No, you're absolutely right.
Depending, like if he gets a 60 save shutout, well, then yeah.
That's a different story entirely.
But if he stops like 33 pucks and he does it and it's a shutout, like, yeah, I'm going with him the next night. That's just how it is. Like,
I mean, isn't it bad we could list about 15, 20 goaltenders like off the top of our heads with ease?
Yeah. That have been disappointing and that's just how I am.
I mean, I know scoring is up and everything in the league as far as in certain divisions, if you will, or certain segments of divisions. But the fact that you can name that many that fast and you can't name that many forwards as fast, it's pretty scary. Because usually it's the other way around. Usually you can rattle off forwards like it's nothing. It's like, oh, this guy, and you still kind of can.
So I want to move away from goaltending as far as disappointments go, and I got one name who everybody was going to anoint. Everybody seemed to want to anoint this guy as the next Theo Fleury. He was just so feisty on the ice, and his size didn't limit him, and he was going to take the league by storm. Cole Caulfield has disappeared in every single metric of this game. He is nowhere to be found. He is shooting an abysmal 1%. He has 8 points in 29 games, 1 goal for someone who's supposed to be this high scoring sniping player. He is just not having any sort of success this season. And I don't know what it could be. Like, he's averaging just, he's down to just about 13 minutes of ice time a game now. At his high, he was about 17 to 18. Everything has fallen off for this kid. And I'm not, I don't want to be too hard, but his disappearance has been a big reason, I think, for the struggles of, Suzuki hasn't been that great either, but I feel like Cole Caulfield not taking that next step has been a major problem for Montreal and why they're at where they're at.
Yeah, Montreal really is a mess. And it's been that way. You hate to say it. You could see it coming, but I don't think you could have seen just how bad this has become. Look, this has become so bad that media members are getting hired by the organization just so they don't talk bad about Montreal anymore.
Yeah, I think the least of their concerns would be finding a coach who speaks French.
Yeah, I think at this point you just have to find something to believe in. I mean, there's little out. You're not winning games at this point. Sam Montembeault, with all due respect, is an ECHL/AHL goalie, much like the situation of what's in New Jersey right now. But I'm not trotting Jake Allen out there. I'm not trotting Carey Price out there. There is no way, shape, or form that you're even thinking of trying to salvage a season that is unsalvageable. You're basically at this point, Mike, trying to get players playing in the not so much a right direction, but trying to get them back to where their games were before the start of the season.
Exactly, and you talk about Carey Price. He's a guy I don't see him. There's a good in my mind. I'm putting it like above 50%. He doesn't finish in Montreal. Unless he really wants to, but he's a guy that deserves to be elsewhere and competing for a championship. And there's a lot of teams in playoff contention and in playoff spots that could use a guy like Carey Price in every way imaginable. And I'd look at one team in particular that's still fighting for a playoff spot, and I'd put them in the Pacific Northwest up in Calgary. They're a team that could use them. And I think they would really benefit putting him in a Sutter system where they play defense.
You would think that Calgary would part with Markstrom at this point.
No, but this goes where my mindset is: 2 starting goalies.
It's different. I mean, look, most people would be like, "Oh, that's nuts, Mike." No. I mean, at this point, with the way this season's been, you might need it. You might actually need something like that, especially up there. Or here we go. I'm gonna joke about this now, and I'm gonna be laughed at it later. You need a home goalie and a road goalie.
That's not a bad idea too. Some goalies do perform better in hostile environments. That's one thing I'd love to see the actual numbers on. But I'm too lazy to dig into it. Way too lazy. I'm just a host.
The Andrew Mangiapane road scoring update. Well, that's where we need Jim for. It's like, Jim, get us the road numbers.
Right?
Like the Cy Young equivalent for hockey update. But now, all kidding aside, though, I mean, you could list almost every Calgary forward as a disappointment at home. It's really bizarre. Elias Lindholm in particular has been awful at home, so much so that Sean Monahan has been kind of making inroads into getting some more power play time. And I'd never thought that was going to happen 10 games into the season.
Agreed.
So, we got lots of forward disappointments.
Speaking of another forward, and there's two more I want to get to. Actually, I'm going to leave Claude Giroux out of this because there's not much he can do in Philly. He's going to be elsewhere by trade deadline, and he's going to show what Claude Giroux can do. Tyler Seguin, 19 points, 39 games, minus 13.
He's coming.
Things are starting to turn around for him, but up to now has been a rough go. And if Dallas is going to make a run into the playoffs and somehow jump teams like Minnesota and Calgary, they're tied with Calgary currently in points, but they've played 2 more games. They're 9 behind Minnesota, who has a game in hand. If they're going to jump into that playoff spot and get something, they have to figure it out quick, because I think at the end of it, they're only going to be fighting for that 1 second wildcard spot. And Seguin has to be a major part of that.
Absolutely. And to be fair, I mean, he had probably every body part broken after the last playoff run. And he only played 3 games last year. He wasn't even right coming into the season. And we may never truly know just how injured Tyler Seguin truly was. To be perfectly honest, we really just may not ever know. It was that bad. The recovery was brutal. I mean, look, I've been fortunate enough to see enough Dallas Stars highlights and specials and things where, like, you see just part of what he went through just to play hockey again and go, what?
Yeah.
Was that bad? But at the same time, to be fair, you're expecting some semblance of Tyler Seguin, and you had not seen that up until probably about the last week or so. Where he, by the way, has 6 points in his last 3 games, and tonight is literally killing the Devils upside down and sideways. Not so much on the scoreboard, but they seem to be. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. They absolutely need to see more of that.
100%
going forward.
Okay, I want to transition here to positives. Ooh. Teams and players that we've been surprised about. Now, one last disappointment. I know we didn't talk about teams for disappointments, but it's really easy. Islanders, Kraken, we talked about them at the beginning of the show. Usually the coaches on the hot seat are disappointing teams. Edmonton for sure. But I want to spend the next bit and wrap everything up talking about positives. And we've talked about players, and one player that has been in my mind, I feel has never gotten enough appreciation for how good he really is, and it's because he plays where he plays. I don't think there's enough respect being put, or has ever been put, on Jonathan Huberdeau's name. The guy has shot over 13% in each of the last 5 seasons.
Yeah.
He has only shot under 10% twice in his career.
Yeah.
He has averaged a point per game in every season, or each of the last 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
The dude had 92 points in 82 games back in my notes here. 92 points in 82 games in 2018-19.
Last time he was healthy.
78 in 69 in 2020.
That's
the 2021 shortened season, he had 61 and 55.
That's really good too.
So far this year, he has 58 and 42. He's a plus 18, shooting 13.9%. He is all over the place.
By the way, that 58 points, Mike, that nice bold little symbol in the hockey reference thing means he leads something.
Yeah.
He leads in assists.
Yes. He is absolutely on fire this year, and he has not gotten enough credit. He is tied for the league lead in points with Alex Ovechkin and Leon Draisaitl.
Yep.
2 names you'd expect to see. Yeah, Jonathan Huberdeau is not, and he needs respect put on his name. He is that damn good. He's been that damn good for years. I remember talking to Steve Goldstein, the play-by-play voice of the Florida Panthers, back when we were both at THW. And we spent 20 minutes talking about how fun Huberdeau is to watch on the ice. We were talking, Goldie, he couldn't stop talking about how much fun it is to call his game on the ice. One, he's got a great goal call of Hoobie Dooby Doo for Huberdeau, which will never get old to me. But do people need to if you don't watch him play, you got to go out of your way and watch him play because he is that good. And holy hell, he
a little
is
more
the Florida
cerebral than your
Panthers.
average player.
Yeah, everybody focuses on guys like Barkov and Ekblad in Florida,
Rightfully so.
Because they're the big names, top of the draft type of thing. But it's not like, Huberdeau wasn't a bum either. He was a 3rd overall pick. Yeah. But it was so long ago, people forget about it. It was 11 years ago.
Isn't it wild that the guy's not even 29 yet?
Yeah. And it's not like, and I think people forget that he was that high of a pick because he didn't join the league his first year.
Right.
Out of the draft. He came in 2012. And even that year, he had 31 points in 48 games as a rookie in that shortened 2012-2013 lockout shortened season. Yeah, and you saw signs of it. The kid shot 12.5% that year. The next 2 years were down because Florida was really bad. And everything just took off for him. He's and knock on wood, he's been super healthy this year, but man, I could talk an entire episode about how much I love that guy.
No, look, he's going to be a top 3 or 4. Well, I'll argue for him. He's at least a top 3 to top 5 candidate for the Hart Trophy.
If he keeps this up, he's my favorite. But because he's not a name, he won't win it.
It's unfortunate, but trust me, there was one guy that you mentioned in what you were just talking about, though. And I'll tie him into the other inevitably because they're going to kind of go hand in hand as the rest of the season goes along, especially if their power play goal scoring prowesses continue. The one is, oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this, Mike. I'm going to have to wash my mouth out with lots of soap. Chris Kreider has 30 goals.
Chris Kreider has 30 goals, which is incredible. Adam Fox is second in the NHL in assists at 39.
Yep.
The Rangers,
they shouldn't be winning. They really shouldn't.
I told you.
Yeah,
I said this at the start. Everybody gives me shit for it. I'm not a Rangers fan. Not a fan of them at all. I'm a Gerard Gallant fan.
Guess what their PDO is, though? It is so dangerously high that it is bound. This is the funny part. The Rangers had a season like this before, not too long ago.
I know. But the thing is, and in another season, I remember them doing it and having a season like this. They wrote it to the finals. We just kept thinking. True. The thing is, we just kept thinking.
It just didn't fall enough.
Yeah, it was a time we just kept thinking, okay, when the wheel's going to come off? And they never came off until they hit that stone wall of a team in LA. And Jonathan
even
Quick,
then.
It's not like it was a bad
series.
They had
chances to win that series.
Yeah.
And they blew two goal leads in that series.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. People keep expecting it to fall out from under them, but
it's not.
It's not. And kudos to them. Gallant is one of my favorite. You just knew he was going to the Rangers all off season. He went to the Rangers, and my mind went, "This is going to work out in every which way for them," and it has. And kudos to them, man. Kreider's playing some of the best hockey he's ever played.
Yes.
Adam Fox is ungodly good. I don't care who's the coach of Adam Fox. Adam Fox
is Adam Fox.
Is Adam Fox. You put him on any team, he's going to make a team instantly better, and he's going to put up incredible numbers. He's that damn good of a defenseman overall in a full aspect, offensively and defensively. Like, to me, he's the front runner again.
Not yet. Not yet. Because I watched a tour de force performance last week, and I'm not willing to go off the Victor Hedman reservation just yet. Because, look, Look, I
I'm
don't
in
think
the Adam Fox for Norris
I will
right
be
now.
honest with this. I don't think Adam Fox could play 30 minutes and do what Victor Hedman did last week on the road against a better team. I just not yet. Is it in time? Oh, you bet. Because let's be honest, Adam Fox is an elite defenseman in this league and is only going to get better. Look at how young he is.
Yeah, he's 23. A third-round pick by Calgary. Calgary. Why?
I know. But right now, at least, you have Makar, you have Hedman, you have Fox, you have Josie, arguably. But there's an underrated guy that has the defensive ability that if there was a defensive defenseman award, he would get some serious consideration. And he kind of keeps the Colorado Avalanche defense somewhat in check. And that would be Devon Taves.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, ironically, also has over a point a game and is a plus 33 on the season.
34 now, actually.
Well, yeah, that's right. Damn it. Hold on, let me carry the one. And so, but even if you throw that god awful stat out that fantasy doo-doos like to use, unfortunately, still, like sometimes myself, there's a number of his defensive zone usage is way less than that of an elite defenseman in this league these days. It's a way different league. How defensemen are deployed. They are more deployed to be in the offensive zone, ironically.
You know what I'm thinking, though?
Mm-hmm.
In the Adam Fox versus Hedman versus whoever for Norris debate.
Yep.
You know what Adam the Fox says?
Oh, boy.
Give me Norris trophy. Give me the Norris trophy. I'm sorry. God. I don't know why. Everybody just closed their window and shut their phone off, and I have lost every viewer we've ever had.
You tried it at least. It may not have gone well, but you tried it.
You brought up Colorado. Quick question. Who leads the Colorado Avalanche in points?
Oh, boy.
Is it A, Mikko Rantanen, B, Nate McKinnon?
I can't believe this.
C, Gabriel Landeskog, or D, Nazem Kadri?
It is none other than Nazem Kadri in a contract year.
Yes. Contract year. Yes, you take that because it happens a lot. But he is being given top line minutes.
Yeah.
And he is putting up top line numbers. It's amazing what happens, though. People always say, well, do it without, before I get it more into Kadri, people always say with players when they put up numbers in top line minutes with top line players, well, let's see him do it without those players. No, let's not. Let's put him where he can thrive. I'm just saying, when Jeff Skinner put up 40 goals with the Sabres, you know what the big thing was? He had Jack Eichel. You took him away from Jack Eichel, and you're like, oh, let's put Skinner and Eichel on different lines, and it went nowhere. Why separate when things are clicking and working? Why make it worse? Because coaches are stupid and they get in their own way. But Kadri, 52 points. Let me say that again. 52 points. In 37 games, and he is tied for third in the NHL in scoring. And as someone who grew up watching the Leafs, watched Kadri's entire Leafs career, saw the vitriol that Maple Leafs fans gave this man, warranted or unwarranted, holy hell, does it have to sting a bit?
A little.
But it is amazing to see. Good for him. Good for Colorado, man. Get that money this offseason, Nazem Kadri.
Oh, is he going to get paid? I mean...
And Kyle says it perfectly. Kadri with 52 points. I'm going literally. I literally just said 52. I am going. This is how into it I'm getting. In a full season would be impressive for Toronto. You damn right it would be. Holy hell. In case you can't tell, I'm really amped about how he's performed this season. I was looking forward to talk about Huberdeau and talk about Kadri all season, all show. So his max points in 2016-17, he had 61 points in 82 games for Toronto.
Right.
In 2017-18, he had 55 and 80.
Yep.
He is on pace for more than 100 points.
Yeah.
He has 52 and 37.
Oh, and he could definitely get there with this lineup. I mean, they're scoring more than 4.5 goals a game.
Good for any game with Colorado. If you're a betting person, you take the over, and it's not even close.
It's fun.
Like with Colorado, since New York finally got sports books 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, I have bet almost every hot Colorado game that I've bet on. I have put money on a Colorado goal in the first 10 minutes, and I've hit every single time. It is as close to free money as you can get when it comes to betting. It's bet for Colorado to score a goal in the first 10 minutes of a hockey game.
Yep, first 10. And then the first period over and the team over.
Yeah.
Usually.
It's so impressive.
I mean, people forget, and Kyle's right. You know, back 30 goal seasons, he had a 60-point campaign in there as well. I think 61.
Yeah.
But the thing that he's doing this year that's really cool is he has 17 points on the power play. And I know he's had seasons like that close, but he has
his two highest seasons on the power play, that 2017-18 with the Leafs, he had 19.
But the synergy that he has with McKinnon and especially Makar, which I think just doesn't get enough
Makar,
attention.
I think it's overlooked because of how talented that Colorado team is. That Colorado team is built to win this year, and anything less than hoisting the Stanley Cup is a disappointment and a failure.
They need a goalie.
Yeah, they do. They're another team that bring Montreal.
Fleury.
Bring up Montreal.
Oh, I want Fleury just to see the Colorado Vegas playoff. I'm not going to lie. I want to be a fly on the wall.
That'd be so beautiful. And then they changed the rules just for that round where every game is decided no matter the score after 3 periods by a shootout.
Yeah. It's mean. I know it's kind of barbaric and cruel, but hey, you know what?
I don't care. It is what it is. We only say it because it's factual. It's just, man, those two players. And then when I'm gleaming with how happy I am about them.
How about this though? You know, for as many breakout guys that Colorado has had, and we talked about them earlier in the show, just because we had to dump on Binnington a little bit. How about St. Louis? Jordan Kyrou, Ivan Barbashev, and even you know, I know he wanted to be traded a few hundred times. Vladimir Tarasenko.
I think he wanted to be traded because to be fair, I don't think he wanted to be traded ever because he wanted out of St. Louis because he didn't like playing for the Blues. I think he was just frustrated with the situation, and maybe by saying I want out could hopefully force a change, whether there or elsewhere. And things are working. When you have success and you're winning, things are hunky-dory. And he is having success. I also think the shoulder injury had a lot to do with his frustration about wanting out and a fresh change of scenery.
Yeah, I would
he's healthy, and he's back to being not as dynamic, but a dynamic player that the Blues needed. And it is incredible. I'm very happy to see, because to me, when I think of St. Louis, he's still, to me, the face of that organization.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, he's not playing the same amount of minutes.
Doesn't need to.
But he's still having the same impact, more or less. And in some ways, you know, he's mentoring young guys. Like, I mean, Barbashev's fun to watch. I mean,
Buchnevich is
like I said to you, that was the one trade that I do firmly believe that is the reason why the Rangers will not win a Stanley Cup in the next several years.
See, I
think that comes back to haunt them at some point, because look, Chris Kreider is not going to score 40 goals ever again. I'll just say it. This is like the.
Oh, you're really going out on a limb there.
Okay, how about this? How about this? All right, he's never scoring 30 goals again.
I could take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Though,
I'll take the
again,
limit.
I will never put anything past the Gerard Gallant coach team because I still think he's that amazing.
I understand that, but I do firmly
My
believe this guy is going to break down.
My love for Gallant is as equal to my
You can
hatred.
see it.
I know. It's as equal to my hatred for Hextall.
It's way up there.
It's literally, they're at the complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
But it's crazy. I mean, there's so many players. I mean, look, Timo Meier. I always joke that if they ever found a way to exile Evander Kane out of San Jose, that Meier was going to go right back to the player he was.
Boom.
Mike, I was wrong. He's even better.
46 and 37. He's the only he is the reason San Jose is competitive and tied for the second wildcard spot right now. Granted, games played, they've played 5 more games than Calgary, who they're tied with, and 3 more than Dallas. But I mean, they're a mediocre team from top to bottom, to be honest, to be fair. But they're going to compete every night and have a chance to win, because every time Meier's touched the puck this year, he's got a chance. And then you have Tomas Hertl, who he's shooting almost 18%. That's not going to last. We know percentages like that don't last too long. But if he can even come at shooting 14, 15% and stick with that, this team will be in it at the end. Do I think they make it? No.
But Mike, by the way, it might last. I point to this. 2018, 2019. Hertl shot 19.9% over 77 games. Wait. Last year, he shot 17% over 50 games even.
Okay. So maybe I'm just dumb.
It's semi-possible. Yeah. It's rare. Let's put it this way. It's rare. Now, it's rare in the sense of this. Now, if you look at his shot rate, Mike, his shot rate is almost 3 a game right now. It's actually 33% more than it was last year. And he's still shooting at that percentage.
And he might be one player because he's had one season in his career, and it was his rookie year, that he shot less than 10%.
Yeah. The numbers are there.
I mean, I'm interested to see where the Sharks land. I'm really interested. They've been surprising. LA, obviously, as a team, they found the fountain of youth a little bit with how Jones is playing, with how Doughty's played this year for the most part, with how Kopitar's played this year for the most part. I mean, Kopitar leads the team in points. They don't have a single point per game player, but they have 7 players. They have balance. Yeah, they have 7 players over 20 points. And they have 5 players over 10 goals. So you're looking at this where they do everything top. They have 3 really quality lines that will grind you out. They play still what people assume of West Coast hockey. They still play it for the most part. And this year it's working again. We'll see if it lasts through the second half of the season, but for now, like things are looking up in LA. Anaheim is nowhere near where we thought they'd be. The Pacific Division's much more entertaining this year than we thought it'd be.
Yeah, I mean,
it might be the most fun division in hockey. The West itself is the most fun division.
Trevor Zegras, we're sorry, we doubted you. Right. Troy Terry,
we understand why they didn't give him up for Eichel.
Now you get it.
Holy crap! I wouldn't either.
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, look, and then of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the old man in the sea, Alex Ovechkin, with the funniest cereal commercial of the NHL season.
Yeah, he's got his contract, he's got his cup, he's going to start slowing down. Dude, I don't think people understand how much that goals record means to that man.
Look, we joke about it because of the name of the blog, Russia Machine Never Breaks. But It really is true. I mean, there's been even a couple times this year where you thought, oh, for sure, he's gonna miss a bunch of games. Oh,
He's the
he definitely
embodiment
looks
of it.
hurt. And it's like, is he made of adamantium? Start wondering.
He's the embodiment of it, of the Russian machine never breaks.
He is the Russian version of Andrew Cogliano, just in a much better playing form, obviously.
Yeah, it's just
So Ovechkin has 29
is to me
goals
the best. Yes, Wayne Gretzky currently has the goals record
for now,
but Ovechkin will go down to me as the best scorer I've ever watched. And it's not like, granted, I didn't see Gretzky live, but I've watched enough games that, yeah, you can understand why he's as great. I also put into consideration goaltenders never went down and their goalie pads were as wide as my arms, and I have dainty wrists. Like that neck pillow is about as
the Garf Snow pads and the size 99 jersey. Just saying.
Yeah,
it's a classic.
Kind of like how people don't want to have that conversation on basketball that Steph Curry is the greatest pure shooter of all time. People still aren't ready to have that conversation almost 20 years later that Ovechkin is the best pure goal scorer of all time.
I do want to thank Kyle for bringing up the gaming metric in the chat room, just because it is 100% accurate. But it also goes to show you just how good a guy like Mike Bossy was.
Yeah. But again, he gets overlooked because of how dominant that team was, top to bottom stacked.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, New York was fantastic. It was amazing. It was amazing.
I mean, look, I'm old enough to remember it. I'm also old enough to remember that the Devils were much worse than they are now, even. People tend to...
My first memory of hockey, I'm trying to think, I was 4. My first memory of hockey, actually, was the Ottawa Senators and San Jose Sharks expansion years.
Yeah,
if you want to think things are bad in Ottawa right now, you could be back then. If you want to say things are bad in Arizona right now, even Arizona isn't as bad as what those two teams.
It was bad. It was really bad.
Oh, oofa.
People don't understand that level.
They were not expansion teams back in the day. Were not set up to succeed.
No, they were set up to be horrible for a bunch of years before finding success.
Minnesota was the one back in the old expansion days. Minnesota was the one outlier because by 2003 they were in the Western Conference Final.
Yeah, they rode a nice run,
and that's because they hit on the biggest hit they could have got when they grabbed Marian Gaborik.
It's true.
Gaborik carried them, and Gaborik is another player that I think partially injuries, partially, I don't know, maybe he just wasn't charismatic enough, whatever it may be. I don't think he gets the appreciation as being as great of a player, as good of a player as he was in his prime. And maybe because it wasn't in his prime, didn't last as long.
I guess it just didn't last as long. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, God, if he had stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more.
I loved watching him play. Marian Gaborik was fantastic. But we'll leave that for another episode. Maybe that's another episode. We'll talk about players that don't get the appreciation they get because of circumstances out of their control. But we're going to wrap it up here. It's been a fun hour. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Full Press Hockey Weekly. Again, you can find us on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, fullpressradio.com. Subscribe to us, follow us, retweet us, like us. Check Chris out at Chris Wassel DFS on Twitter, myself at Mike Straw Media. Until next time, we are signing off.